on, it'll be easier to see me because it won't be as dark as early as it is now. But if you want to turn your camera on, you can. You don't have to if you don't feel like it. I like having mine on so you can kind of see me. That way I kind of feel like we're really talking to each other and it's not just a voice over the computer. Anyway, we'll get started. I'm Dr. Bippert, and I like to have these meetings once a week so that you guys can get an idea of what each of these modules are all about, and also have a chance to ask any questions about what's going on. Because I know with online classes, a lot of times it can kind of feel like you're kind of out there on your own, and it's up to you to kind of understand everything I typed up in the computer. But I want you guys to feel like we're learning together. You are going to have a few presentations throughout the semester, and this is how we'll do the presentations. I'll have a couple of days where you guys can kind of sign up to do your presentations to other people, but we won't do it on just one night. That way it's flexible if it's your schedules, because you guys, a lot of times you're taking these online courses because you need a flexible schedule. And I want to let you guys keep, that sort of, I want you to have that opportunity to use that flexibility, at your leisure. But anyway, what I've done right now is I'm sharing my screen with you guys, and I'm looking at your names, and I know most of you guys, but I know a few of y'all are brand new to me, and you may not have ever used Zoom before. So if you've never used Zoom, the times when we're not presenting, I'm going to kind of walk you through how to do a share screen. That way, when we do presentations, you'll see that it's really relatively easy. So I'm going to stop share real quick, and then you're going to see your screen like you normally would. So if you want to share your screen with anybody at any time, if you're giving a presentation or for whatever reason, if you mouse over the bottom of the screen, you'll see there's a bunch of options. One is a mute button. One's the video button, and then you've got invite. I have invite. You may have invite, you may not. I'm on the manager end of Zoom. Participants, and then share screen. It's usually in the center of that bottom bar. If you click share screen, a window is going to pop up, and it's going to give you options to choose whatever screen you want to show. Sometimes there's just a few options if you don't have a lot going on your computer, but then other times you'll have maybe a desktop one and a desktop two. That's what I have, because I've got a screen where I'm showing my Blackboard page, and then this screen where my camera is kind of showing your faces and my face. And I'd like to keep your face over there. That way when I'm talking to you and I'm looking at your face, it at least looks like I'm looking at you. So when you see me looking over here, I'm looking at my desktop screen, and that's what I'm going to share with you right now. I'm clicking desktop 2, and then there's a little button that says share screen, and voila, there's my screen. And I have it on edit mode off. That way I'm looking at pretty much what you guys are looking at when you get into Blackboard. How do you guys like the new update on Blackboard? It looks a little different, right? See something real quick. It's different, but it's really pretty much functions the same. I know I was talking to Alexandra and Odell, and she was saying that they're having a little bit of issues with it being a little slow sometimes. I think it's on account of the upgrade, but I feel like the interface is a lot more user-friendly, and it's going to be easier for you guys to see where to go and what to do. Not only that, but I can kind of bling it up so it looks all pretty. And so you know that your course that looks like a composition book, that's this course right here. So I'm in our shell. I'm going to talk to you about the syllabus. I'll talk to you about Module 1, preview of Module 2, and then anybody with any questions can ask them today. So, we're kind of on the same page, and you guys feel confident that, you know what you need to do to get through week 1, week 2, and week 3. Module 1 is essentially week 1. And if you look at the syllabus, you'll see that that's kind of how I have the syllabus set up. So I'm going to click on syllabus. And it says week 1, week 2, week 3. Okay, that's how I had it set up roughly during the summer when I taught the same course. It was a 5-week course then, so trust me, 7 weeks, a whole lot better than 5 weeks. But week 1, essentially, these are kind of our goals. Here are the topics we're going to cover, and then the assignments that you need to do. You'll be reading certain chapters from our text. You'll have a reflection, a quiz over the chapters we covered, and I'll talk to you more about those quizzes in a minute. And then whatever other written assignment that I want you guys to submit through Blackboard. And I'll have those all under those relative modules in the contents page. Week 2, you guys are going to administer a reading inventory. I put IRI in here a lot, but that really just means informal reading inventory. It's a reading assessment, basically. And I'm really flexible on whatever inventory you want to use with your kids. I know some of you guys may work at schools where there is a certain one that your administrators or perhaps your reading specialist uses with students. You can get your hands on a free one. That's fantastic. But I know I did send you guys some options of others that you could purchase or maybe get used someplace. If you're struggling to find an IRI, let me know, because I can get you something that's inexpensive, but a lot of times it's really nice to have one that fits your needs. Some of the reading inventories are better for early elementary, and some are better for middle school. I'm more familiar with the ones that are useful for middle school, but I know that, let's say, Flint Tutor, very good for early elementary, and there's a number of other really good reading inventories for younger children. For your older elementary, middle school, and so forth, I've used Ekwall Shanker, but I usually use Woods and Moe. I have copies of the Form A for Woods and Moe that I can scan in and get you guys. Like I said, the only problem is it's so much nicer to have the booklets. And that way you can take it with you. And if you find yourself in a position where you can give a reading inventory to a student that you see is struggling, you'll have that resource with you. And you won't have to worry about trying to find it again. So again, I'm really flexible on whatever type of reading inventory you want to use. Does anybody want to share what they're planning on using or what they've used in the past? Can y'all hear me okay? Let me mess with my settings real quick because I don't hear anybody, and I'm a little bit worried that my audio might be kind of messed up. So let me kind of do some work on this real quick.
I got the. Can you hear me?
You can hear me.
Okay.
No.
I got the Woods and Moe book, but now that you're saying that it's more for middle school, I'm kind because I teach first grade.
You know, it's still fine for first grade. I think the reason why I say that is because you might have to modify it a little bit, because you'll notice that when you go into the booklet, they have the words in a list. And that's great for older kids because they kind of feel, oh yeah, I'm used to this size font. I'm used to seeing words like this. And whereas with another one, you may find that if they have it like in flashcard form, or you can create flashcards from the word list that you have. That's another option. I mean, if you already have it, they're expensive. I really don't recommend you going through the expense of buying another one. Woods and Moe is good for pre-kinder to 8th grade. It's just that you might have to modify it to fit your kids' needs. That's all.
Okay, and I actually got
don't worry about it too much.
I actually got this one on Amazon. I only paid like $7.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So if anybody else
that's
needs
really
one,
good.
I think they had a couple of other copies. It was like the cheapest one that I could find.
No, that's wonderful. You know, honestly, the earlier editions that are used. Sometimes you got to go in and erase stuff. I mean, my Woods and Moe was used. And there's one page that somebody wrote with pen on. I can't fix it. I have to type it up myself. But the rest of my book is great. And I've had to go through and erase parts that somebody's written on. But for the most part, I've used it, I would say 20 to 30 times. I've used it with my middle schoolers quite a bit. And, and they might come out with newer editions, but honestly, a second edition, even if the third edition is like the most recent, the second edition is fine. And you can find a lot of really inexpensive ones at Half Price Books, on Abe Books, on Amazon. Take a look there before you go out and spend $60. I just sent off for a $60 one, but that's because I need one in Spanish. And that was the only one I could find. And I really need it actually because we're doing some tutoring at a school where our students, they need to have their assessments done in Spanish. That was a cost I was willing to make because I know that I'll probably use that book over and over again in some similar settings. But at the same time, honestly, if you've got Woods and Moe, and it's fine. Again, just think about your first graders' needs and think about what you might need to do to make it a little bit more approachable for them on the earlier passages. I think you're going to be fine, Courtney.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't mean to scare you off from Woods and Mo.
Okay.
That's my favorite, actually, and it's probably because I've used it most. I've used it more than any of the other. I bought Ekwall Shanker for a master's course, and I bought the Woods and Mo for my undergrad course, and I always defaulted back to Woods and Mo. I just liked it better. So let me do my screen screen share again. I was a little worried that my connection had gotten weird and I lost y'all, but my connection at my house is usually really good. So that would have surprised me if that had happened. But let me go ahead and do the share screen again so I can look at the screen just real quick. This won't take but a minute. Okay. And if y'all have a question or anything, feel free to interrupt. I don't mind. I talk a lot. I don't know. It's like I like to hear myself talk. So here's your basically your tentative weekly schedule. Some things may or may not get pushed back. I don't think they will, but if something happens where we're like, you know what, we're not ready for this, this presentation or whatever, we'll do it next module. I'll let you know ahead of time. But for the most part, this looks like it's going to work unless something happens. I mean, you never know. This whole academic year, we've had snow, we've had a hurricane, we've had a freeze day. Don't know what's going to happen, but I think we're going to be okay. Like I said, this schedule looks like it's going to work pretty well this spring. Okay, but again, don't let the acronyms bother you. Informal reading inventory, informal writing and reading inventory, whichever. I mean, I've only had one student in the past who has focused on writings, but if you feel like you want to focus on student writing with the child you're working with, that's fine. Our book has plenty of really good writing strategies you can use with students if it's not necessarily the reading that they need help with. So just let me know and I can help you sort of modify what you're doing with your child if you need that support. Okay, so that's the general schedule. As for the syllabus, here we go. Yay, I love my connection. It's pretty good. I can actually get my screens to come open. All right, so the syllabus is pretty straightforward. Most of it's the typical stuff you see in a syllabus, the proficiencies, the course description, the rationale. But so that you know, this course focuses on, kind of like what the course is titled, it's correction or diagnosis and correction of reading and writing difficulties. And so what we're going to do is first assess a student's reading abilities. So you're going to identify a student perhaps in your classroom, perhaps in a friend's classroom, and you're going to give them a reading inventory basically to see how they're doing. Not only at what level they seem to be reading at proficiently, but also what areas of reading they seem to need the most support in. Is it fluency? Is it decoding? Is it comprehension? You can look at these inventories and it could give you a really good idea of the areas that you could address in your intervention because that ties into the diagnosis. Once you've assessed them, then you decide which one or two areas can I support, and then what are some activities and strategies I can create for the child that's going to help build those skills. And it is going to be step by step, so don't stress out because you're like, oh my gosh, I have never given an IRI, or maybe you haven't given one since you've been an undergrad. Maybe you went through the program here at TAMU CC, and the last time you took this class was in an undergraduate setting, you were at the ECDC, and you haven't really done anything like this since, and you've been teaching for 10 years. Well, you're gonna get to try it again. By the time you finish the class, I'm hoping you feel confident in giving the assessment, but also confident in being able to evaluate the assessment and finding ways to help an individual child. At the end, you'll give them another IRI to see what sort of improvements they made over the course of the semester. So, and again, it's step by step, module 1, module 2, module 3. As you go through each module, you'll be completing certain things that's going to get you ready for that final assessment. So I only open a module at a time, mostly because I don't want anyone overwhelmed. I do know about 5 people have already taken the quiz, and people are doing really well on it. So don't let the quizzes scare you. The quizzes are actually there so that I know that you're reading the text, but also that you're taking away from those chapters what I feel like are the most salient points that I want you to come away with. I'm giving you 2 times to take the test. You get to take it twice, because if you make some mistakes, you can go back in and rethink those questions, and then you'll know what the answers are, and hopefully that'll kind of become part of what you know about literacy. in that case. What we're doing in the modules, though, for the most part, is really just application of what you're learning in that text. And I think that's probably the most important thing that we need to learn in the class. How do I assess a child? How do I diagnose their needs? And what do I do in order to support them and with those literacy needs? So that was a lot at once. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have looked at the syllabus. You kind of know what's going to come up later on in the course. At this point, does anyone have any questions about what I just talked about? Okay.
No questions.
So I'm going to kind of scroll through. The first thing that is on your assignments is the case study. It's piece by piece. So don't let that worry you either. I'm going to even show you guys an example of what a case study looks like and about module 3 or 4. I want you to see what it looks like so you'll know, okay, all this data I've collected, here's what it's going to look like when I'm finished at the end after I'm done evaluating it. So in the end, the case study kind of describes what you're gathering and what you're going to come up with by the end of the course. So this is going to start with a summary, which is going to have pupil background information, the diagnosis information from your IRI, and you're going to be doing that next week. Summary of corrective action. In other words, what strategies did you decide you were going to use with that child based on their diagnostic information? So if I found that my student mostly struggled with fluency, then on that summary of corrective action, I'm going to describe the fluency activities or strategies that I used or I planned to use with the child throughout the rest of the semester, short semester, of course. And then finally, the results. After the end of it, of the semester, I gave them another IRI at the end of 6.5 weeks or so. What sort of improvements did I see over that course? And we know it's a short amount of time, but it is it's eye-opening to see that sometimes you can really make a lot of gains in that short amount of time. You'd be surprised because think about how rare it is a child gets one-on-one with a teacher. It's human resource-wise, it's difficult to really, really focus on one child at a time, and we really wish we could. So if you have one child in your class who's going to get that one-on-one, you might find that at the end of 6 or 7 weeks, they did make some substantial gains, especially in the area that you were focusing on, because they're getting that time with you. And so this is actually going to be very worthwhile. I think you're going to come away from the end of the class feeling like you've learned quite a bit about how to work with children one-on-one, how to address their individual needs, and not only that, but how to use a tool that, although time-consuming, is a really good way of looking into how a child is doing with reading and writing. It really is. And I know we use universal screeners in a lot of schools to try to assess all the kids, and that's great. You can really assess a ton of kids in a short amount of time. But you get so much more information when you sit with a child and listen to them read. And I think those of you guys in elementary, I think you understand that. I think as first grade teachers, second grade teachers, kindergarten teachers, you know that one-on-one time, that small group time with children, when you listen to them read or you read to them and ask questions, you learn so much more about their reading ability than you might get out of a report that's spit out by a computer. How many of you guys have had a chance to actually notice the difference between working with a child one-on-one and listening to them read and looking at just a report that comes out that's given to you by administrators or by perhaps the technology departments?
I know I've seen a lot of that because we do TPRI testing. We actually just finished with that, and seeing what a child can do there compared to what they do when you're sitting one-on-one, you kind of pick up on like, oh, I didn't know that child was doing this when they're reading, and I didn't, you pick up on those little things that you wouldn't notice normally if you weren't sitting one-on-one with them.
Absolutely. In a couple, it might even be next module, we're going to talk about the quantitative data you're collecting and the qualitative data you're collecting. The quantitative data is like those numbers, the number of miscues, how many times did they omit a word? How many times did they add a word to what they're reading? That's quantitative. I know they made this many mistakes and they've got this percentage of word accuracy in this passage. And that's good to know, but it's that qualitative information. This is Nicole, right?
Yes.
The qualitative, the watching the child, the listening to them, and kind of understanding where they're having the most difficulty based on the pauses, based on the facial expressions, based on their reactions to questions you ask them. You can't get that from numbers or from a report that's spit out all the time. And like you said, working with them one-on-one, you can see that. That's that important, very important, reflective, qualitative data that really makes this a lot more, I think, you know, of course I'm biased, but a lot more meaningful for teachers and helps you understand how to address their needs a lot better. It really does. And it's time consuming. That's why you're only going to do this with one kid in 7 weeks. If you were a reading specialist and this is what you did all day, that would be one thing. A lot of you guys are full-time classroom teachers. And so this is extra time you're spending with a child, but at the same time, this could potentially be the kind of thing you would do all the time once you get your reading specialist certification. And this is great practice for that. Okay, so again, supporting material is going to go into the case study. We're going to talk about it as we go. You know, in other words, I want to see all of the data you collected, that you have, that you do running records with the students. Let's see the running records. That could be part of the data that you use to describe their progress through the program and so forth. But we're starting, of course, as you know from Module 1, we're just thinking about, let's get that pupil background information. If it's your classroom student, then you already have a lot of this. You might have their test data. You may have you know, information from previous teachers or from other teachers who are working with them currently this year about their reading ability, and that's fantastic. What I do ask everyone to do, though, is when you write up your case study, use a pseudonym. And don't use the name of your school, just in case. And I know we're not publishing this. It's not like we've got an IRB and we're gonna do it, we're doing a formal study. But you know, it's really just for the benefit of the child and the benefit of yourself to kind of either use a pseudonym for the school or just don't say which school it is. You can talk about school demographics, that's fine. That's gonna help explain where the kid comes from, and that's absolutely appropriate. But please, please use a pseudonym. It's just the safest thing to do. And I'm going to recommend, I'm going to tell that to everybody. I've got 4 students working with middle school kids right now. And I told them the exact same thing. Let the kids pick their own pseudonyms if you want to. It's up to you, but just try to not use their name. That way, if when you're talking, let's say, for example, you're talking about your case studies and it turns out one of the people in class knows the kid or the kid's family, it would be best that they not know that that child is tied to your data. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's all about us kind of being all about FERPA, even though we're not in the classroom. At the same time, we still have to take these things into consideration. Even though we're talking as colleagues and we're talking as professionals, we want to protect their anonymity. So I think you guys get it. So yeah, pseudonyms, try to keep them as anonymous as possible. But when you give their people background, fake name, age, relevant school experiences, that's all applicable, and that's fine. So I just wanted to share that with you. Does anyone have a question about what I want you guys to do for that people background part? Because I'm going to show y'all where everything's kept. I'll do that in a minute because I'm on the screen. I want to get through this. Okay. Then you're going to give an informal reading inventory. You're going to give, you know, the Woods and Moe or Bader Pearson. You might give, again, Flint Tutor Flint. You might give the Flint Tutor 2 in Spanish. It depends on what tool you're using. And you will not only report your findings to the class in a presentation, I think it's week 3, but you're also going to give us a kind of an evaluation of how you felt the instrument, how effective it was with your child. In other words, did you need to add anything to it? Did you need to modify it in any way to fit your child's needs? You want to talk about that. Perhaps the tool you used didn't have a really strong fluency measure. Well, and you need to add something to it. We'll discuss that. You know, I really liked the blah, blah, blah. Informal reading inventory. However, it didn't really have a really great way to measure fluency, and I needed to add this. So there's tools I'm going to share with you guys that's going to help you if you need a fluency measure, if you need additional resources. That way, if you need to kind of beef up your IRI, you'll have those tools. But otherwise, there's going to be weekly quizzes worth 10 points each. I've got 3-point multiple choice questions, and I just got done fiddling with that too. For whatever reason, it was counting the extra credit. I mean, the extra credit question for 3 points was counted as part of the regular score. I finally tweaked it so that it was extra credit. And of the 5 people who've tested already, all of them did really well, and they have really good scores. Whatever they missed was able to be met and exceeded, I think, by the extra credit. So they've got more than enough to maintain their A. So just do your best on the quiz. It's not intended to be a gotcha. It's just kind of like, these are the things I want you to know after you've read chapters 1, 2, and 3. So take it twice. If you mess up the first time, look at, think about the ones you probably missed, go kind of study back on it, go take it again, so that you at least kind of know, oh, this is what I'm looking for. I purposefully chose the questions that I felt were most appropriate and most relevant to you guys. So it's not a gotcha, but I feel like it's a good way to make sure that you're getting from the text what you need. And as we go, that's a huge book you guys have, that gunning book. You're not going to be asked to read every single chapter. Has anybody had a chance to kind of read through the modules? Oh, you know what? I'm looking at this. Here we go. Here's the modules. Okay. Take a look at this. Can y'all see my schedule that I have showing here?
Yes.
Okay, so week 1, hopefully you saw that. Interviews and attitude surveys, you're hopefully doing that. Well, you're doing that now. You're doing your, your pupil background information, your profiles. You've kind of looked over the case study assignment. You need to work with a student one-on-one. We're kind of discussing case studies now. Don't worry about the scheduled synchronous parts. I kind of left that in there from when I did this in the summertime. But if you look a little further, yes, next week will be chapters 4, 5, and 6. That's 3 chapters again, I know. But by week 3, you guys are gonna be able to be more selective in the chapters you have to read. Basically, think about the IRI results. What deficiencies, or that's a really bad way to put it, which areas do they need the most support in, and which chapter is gonna help you the most? Those are the chapters I want you to read. But I'm going to have a quiz in there for you to take with that chapter. So I'm going to say, okay, if you read chapter 5, here's your chapter 5 quiz. If you did chapter 4, or I should say 8 or 9 or 10 or 11. So we're going to work it out like that. I'm not going to make you read all of those chapters, because you're not going to necessarily need all of those chapters. And I would rather you work with your child on their reading, on their skills, on their strategies, than worry about reading a ton of chapters. Okay. So like I said, when you see chapters 8 through 11 selected readings, you're going to get to pick. Yay. And you're going to pick based on what your child needs. And then down here, group chapter presentations. Okay, I'm going to ask you, okay, which one did you read? Then you're going to do a presentation on chapter 11, chapter 12, chapter 13, whichever one you read. And even if half the class reads chapter 11, almost half the class reads 12 and only one reads 13, that's okay. Because I think, let me think, Courtney and Laura let me think who else is here with me today. Yeah, y'all can attest to the fact that when people do the same chapter presentations, it's never the same. It's always at least slightly, if not very different, because it's coming from some particular point of view based on the presenter, based on the student they're working with, and based on their experiences. And so what ends up happening is, if I have 3 people doing chapter 11, the others who watch the chapter 11 presentation are learning something new. And that's perfectly fine, because there's so much to know about strategies and things that you can do with kids to support them in reading that you can't cover it in one presentation. And these are not intended to be long. They're like 15-minute presentations at the most. I want them to be short. Basically, what did you get from chapter 11, and what strategies kind of did you feel were the most relevant or to what you need to do with your child, is basically the gist of those presentations. Okay? All right. Hopefully y'all feel better about week 4 then, or weeks 3 and 4, because 3 and 4 look crazy. But when you look back at, and I'm bouncing around, I know I am, but if you look back at learning modules, and I'm going to put it on edit mode on. There we go. I merged them right here. They're together. So you'll be working in this module for 2 weeks, because it all goes together. That's where you're choosing the chapters you want to read. You're going to do your presentation. You're building information about your student. And you're creating your case study. I didn't see any point in making 2 modules when you're going to basically put everything in there. Everything builds into each other. And I know it looks crazy, modules 4 and 5. Well, I already called them weeks 4 and week 5, so I just kind of kept the names similar so it wasn't so confusing. Okay, so that looks crazy. Do you see why I keep it all hidden from y'all? That looks insane. So I would rather you just see what you need to see. But I am going to open module 2 tomorrow night after I meet with my next group of students. So if you want to take a peek at module 2, or you're ready to begin your IRI with your students, you'll be able to get in there and start looking at resources. Okay. Who is a first-time Masters of Reading student?
I am.
Okay.
Lauren.
Okay. Okay, let me show you some, let me talk to you then about this next folder down here, which is case study practicum hours feedback forms. Honestly, if you're working with a kid one-on-one, getting your 15 hours of practicum work with your child should actually be pretty easy, because you'll probably, I'm assuming you'll be working with them at least a few times a week. And because of that, you just need to keep track of what you're doing. And so when you go in the folder, there's 2 forms. One's the log. The log is simple. Basically, what day did you work with the child? How long did you work with them? And have somebody sign off that you did it. It could be your principal, it could be your department chair, it could be the literacy specialist on your campus. I'm not super picky about it, so long as it's somebody I could call and say, hey, I noticed you signed on their log, can you attest that they did 15 hours? And they'll probably say, yeah, sure. So here we go, dates, time range, course, that would be me, read. We've got course there just in case people are taking 2 courses at one time. Whatever hours you do for me, you can't do for Dr. Pletcher. I just need to let y'all know that. That's just kind of the nature of us trying to get all of your hours in for TEA. So my course would go here, that'd be Read 5371. Course, I mean. Objectives observed or taught. Of course, it's going to be taught in this case. So basically, you don't got to be super specific about TEKS objectives. Just write a general description of what you did with the child, of fluency, comprehension strategies, or whatever. And then signature and any comments you or the person had. This could be left blank. I'm not picky. This is just a way for you to keep track of, did I get my 15 hours? Am I close? Do I need to do a lot more work before the end of the semester? And it lets us have a really good eyeball idea of how many times you worked with them and if in fact you got your 15 hours. So this is the main page, but the other page is also very helpful too. And I do want you to do some of these other pages as often as you can. And it's the practicum cover sheet and protocol. I need to have these on PDF also, because y'all like the Word document. It's really easy to write in, but when I'm pulling them up, I'm constantly pulling up extra copies. Okay, so I only need 1 of these at the end of the semester. So basically, your name, your island ID, whoever it was who's been signing off for you, their name, your school or campus, and how many hours you completed. Did you get 15 of 15? Great. Did you get 12 of 15? Let me know. It's better than nothing, but I think you guys are going to have no problem getting your 15 this semester. And then I hereby acknowledge that your name has completed the hours described above, and then they sign. I only need 1 of these at the end of the semester. This is basically like an overview saying, hey, I can attest that this student finished X number of hours, and they sign. It's a way for us to show TEA, hey, see, we got it signed. So they're happy, we're happy, everybody's happy. The second page, complete as often as you can. I mean, I'm not saying every single time you meet with your students, but it'd be really great to kind of keep track of the strategies you're using and also write down any notes here. I think this would be a really great way for you to keep observational reflective notes about how the sessions go with your students. So, you know, you only have to do this once or twice. What grade level? Yeah, you know, we're going to know by the 2nd or 3rd time you're working with your kid. You won't have to fill some of this out, but then right here, which of their assessed needs is the focus of today's lesson? You may start out working on fluency and then in 2 or 3 weeks decide you want to switch to comprehension. that's fine. And then what's the name of the strategy or skill or activity that you're using today? How do you feel it went? And be honest, guys, this is your reflective takeaway. If you feel like it really he didn't catch on to it, he really struggled, write about it. I'm not going to say, oh, she doesn't get credit. Just be honest about that, because then over here on response, you can say, you know, maybe I should try something a little more engaging. Perhaps the story that we read really wasn't of any interest to the child. You know, this is a chance for you to reflect and think about what you could do differently or keep doing the next time you meet with the child. And then, did you collect any quantitative data today? And if so, please describe. In other words, did you do a running record? Did you maybe do a really quick read with them and count the number of maybe miscues that they did? That's fine. That might be a really nice place for you to write that down. Everything you're writing up here in some ways is qualitative data, because you're talking about how the lesson went. What were the child's reactions? How did things go, and do things need to be maybe revised or changed for the next time? So this form is going to help you a lot, because I am going to keep kind of reminding you guys, hey, don't forget, every time you meet with your child, take notes about how it's going and what's going on, so that so basically when it comes to writing your case study paper, you're going to have all those notes to go back to and say, oh, that's right. My first session, I tried this activity and it went like this. I can write about that. You've got all of your data right there.